This morning mobility routine is gonna change your life. And they're not just for breakfast. You can do them any time of the day, before a workout, as a movement break if you have a desk job. So they have a lot of applications. Now I want you to think about this routine as your daily joint hygiene. It's just like brushing your teeth. And when you're moving your joints intentionally through their full range of motion, from your neck all the way down to your toes, it allows blood supply, nutrients, and oxygen to go in those areas. Now, there are a lot of controlled articular rotations videos out there, but I promise you, this is as comprehensive as it gets, because I'm not only gonna teach you how to do them, I'm gonna spend time on each joint explaining common compensatory movement patterns to look for so you can actually do them right. This is why this video is a little bit longer than the other one. Now, why is this crucial? I'll give you a couple of reasons. Number one is developing awareness and neurological control of how your joints are moving through space, moving each joint independently through their full range of motion without allowing compensations to happen. Now, in the beginning, when you do these, you're gonna see a lot of these compensatory patterns happen. For example, you see how as Julie creates rotation in the spine, the pelvis is kind of trying to join the party, or as she's trying to create that internal rotation of the femur, the pelvis is kind of spilling forward. Now, when we're doing these, intent is important, and you'll see a lot of people showing these movements online. Some are good, but most aren't. Why? Because they lack intention. The goal here, for example, is to create and understand what it feels like for the femur to move independent of the pelvis. When I flex my spine, I want to get flexion in the spine. I don't want any flexion in my hips necessarily. And these go beyond the hip and the spine. These are tremendous tools towards building awareness everywhere. Every single move and motor plan you attempt to make will always be initiated by your joints. And unlike your muscles, your joints and the deeper tissues aren't as richly supplied with blood. Therefore, specialized movements focused on individual joints are kind of vital to nourish those areas through increased blood flow. Now, the first 35 minutes of this video is me taking you through each joint from your neck all the way down to your toes and really explaining the compensatory patterns and what to look for. So treat it as a personal training session. Put it on and do the movements as the video starts, just like Julie does it. Listen to the instructions, and I definitely recommend watching this video a couple times because it's like rereading a book. You're gonna pick up something new every single time. And the last 13 minutes of this video is a follow-along routine that you can continue doing every day, hopefully for the rest of your life. And the more you do it, the better awareness you will create, and this awareness is gonna translate into the joint-specific training we're going to do later on in this channel. Share, like, and subscribe so you can support this channel to grow. So I'm going to teach you, as I were to teach my client, of how to do the controlled articular rotations joint by joint so it makes sense to you. Then we're going to do a follow-along routine after that, okay? So let's start with the neck. So the neck. First, I want you to feel what flexion of the neck feels like. So flexion of the neck is when you slowly drop your chin down all the way to your collarbone. Go back and forth a couple of reps and see what that feels like for you. Always, maintaining the position that you don't feel any pain in. So if you feel pain at this position, back out of that zone and always be in the pain-free zone. Now, after you figure out what flexion feels like, I want you to see what extension feels like. So drop your neck all the way back. This is your extension. And then go back in the middle, and then go all the way back. Common compensations in flexion and extension is that when people go to flexion, go ahead and flexion, they tend to go like this. They tend to flex everything in their thoracic. Sometimes they hinge too. So make sure that you're blocking those compensations out. Common compensations in extension is that when people do this, they tend to push this forward and extend from their back as well. So try to keep it as isolated as possible when you're moving through flexion and extension. Now, after flexion and extension, we have rotation. So rotate from side to side. Great. And then we have lateral flexion. So laterally flex and then flex towards the other side. Now, the controlled articular rotations, we're going to put them all together and slowly move our neck through its outer ranges of motion. So create tension And I want you to create tension when you're doing controlled articular rotations because you want to make sure that you're only moving from that specific joint that you're targeting, right? So we create a full body isometric contraction. Widen your feet a little bit. And when you're widening your feet, imagine that your foot is on two plates and you're trying to rotate it outwards. Your foot is not going to actually turn, but your limbs are going to kind of turn and you're going to create that torque. And you're going to feel a nice squeeze in your butt and you're going to maintain that tension throughout you doing the controlled articular rotations. Imagine that there's two tennis balls in your hands, lightly squeeze them and then slowly drop your neck down, scrape your collarbone, drop your ear back, rotate the other way, again scrape your collarbone, and again we're going to do one more rep. Again, we're going to create rotation and flexion. Once we max out rotation and flexion, we're going to drop our ear back, go into extension, rotation and extension, laterally flex as we move and drive it towards the middle. That's our neck. Great. Now, let's move through the spine, okay? So, first I'm going to show you the linear motion of the spine, which is going to be our regular cat-camel motion, but we're going to do it segmentally. Then I'm going to show you the standing motion of the spine, but there's a couple of steps to the standing motion. So first, I want you to get on the ground. Now, a regular cat-camel, just do a regular cat-camel like you would do in yoga class. Just go up. There's not much control there. You're just going into global flexion and extension. But what I want you to do is that I want you to start out, max out at your extension, and then slowly tilt your pelvis forward and then move your lumbar spine into flexion first, one vertebrae at a time, and let it creep up all the way through your thoracic, and then from your thoracic all the way to your neck. And once you max out flexion in this position, keep your neck down. I want your neck to be the last thing that comes up. I want you to start by tilting your tailbone back, slowly creating extension from L5 all the way up, slowly letting it creep up. And all the way. We're going to do one more rep. Slowly start here, one vertebrae at a time, let it creep up, and then slowly drop it all the way down. Great. That's going to be our spine, right? The linear motion of our spine. So now we're going to do standing spine cars. For the standing version, I'm going to show you what it looks like. Julie's going to actually show you what it looks like. And then I'm going to take you through the different positions and put them all together. So just show them what the spine cars look like. Flex down all the way. So this is spine flexion. And now we're going to create rotation after flexion. After rotation, we're going to go into lateral flexion and then extension. Slowly, 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 we're going to laterally flex again, create rotation, and come back in the starting position. Now, a lot of things are going on in this position, but Julie's done it enough that she knows how to do it properly. But in order to get rid of these common compensations that people might be having, I want you to get beside a wall, and we're going to start beside the wall, and we're going to start our flexion beside that wall. All right, so now I'm going to teach you how to flex and create flexion using the wall. I like to use the wall because it really allows you to teach yourself how to isolate your spine without involving your hips, okay? And I want you to imagine that there's a scale behind your butt, and I want you to visualize the number on that scale right in front of you. And when you're creating that flexion, I wanted you to make sure that that number on that scale is not going higher. Because when you create flexion, I don't want you to actually hinge back. I want you to actually really isolate your spine as much as you can. Okay, so now hold your hands here. Create a little bit of tension in your body. And I want you to slowly peel off the first vertebrae that is attached on the wall one by one. So slowly peel off your back all the way down, all the way down, without pushing your glutes into the wall. Pause right here. Feel how that feels like. You're going to get a nasty ab pump here. Now, slowly, one vertebrae at a time, go back up. So that's spine flexion without involving your hips. I don't want any hip movement here. Go back again, slowly. Flex all the way down. Now see how Julie likes to lead with her neck? I don't want that to happen. So next time, she's going to go all the way up. I don't want you to lead with your neck. Keep your neck where it is, and then only move with your spine. Don't lead with that. Perfect. And now go down. Much better. Squeeze, 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 squeeze all the way. Pause, and then go back up. So that's spine flexion. Okay, once you familiarize yourself with that motion, then I want you to feel what rotation feels like, okay? So, go all the way down. Flex, 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 flex. Now from this position, I want you to maintain your position. Now we're going to create rotation here. So rotation first to the right and to the left. Now, pay attention to what your hips are doing, because when you're in a standing position and you go into rotation, our hips are going to try to fall and join the party. Well, we don't want them to join the party, right? So if your glutes, if you're rotating to the right, I want you to pay attention that your left glute doesn't come off the wall. And when you're rotating to the left, I want you to pay attention that your right glute doesn't come off the wall like this, okay? And really try to isolate your spine as much as possible. So find your end, rotate, rotate, rotate to the right, find your end, find your end, find your end. Try to fight for some more without allowing that glute to come off, and then rotate again for me. Slowly, slowly, slowly rotate, rotate. Feel your obliques, find your end, fight for some more. Excellent. Now go in the middle. So that's flexion and rotation. Okay, now I'm going to teach you what extension feels like. So for extension, you can grab a book or grab a yoga block or whatever and put it against the wall, like here. And I want you to put your, turn around, be against the wall. Excellent. You can put it right on your belly button, right? And then, or a little bit lower. And then I want you to try to extend without pushing your hips into the yoga block. So, same scenario that you felt there was a scale behind your butt and you didn't want to see the number on that scale increase. Now, imagine that the yoga block or the book is the scale, and as you try to create extension through here, I don't want you to push your hips into the block and see the number on that scale go up. So we're really trying to isolate the spine, especially the thoracic area, as much as we can. Now flex for me, go in the neutral position. Now flex a little bit more, see how that feels like. Now from this position again, create a little bit more extension. Right through here, right through here, right through here. And then flex again for me. Slowly go down. Flex, flex, flex. Pause, and now create extension slowly through here, and then through here, and then through here, and then through here. Do this for a couple of reps, see what that feels like. Now pause here. Now rotate for me in this position. Rotate to the right, and then rotate to the other side. See what that feels like. Familiarize yourself with all these different positions that we go through in our controlled articular rotations. Excellent. So now we're going to put them all together. Okay? Now, I want us to stand here, right in the middle. So one thing that I want you to pay attention to is that see how you are distributing the weight under your feet in this position, okay? For example, imagine that you're distributing 60% in the front, right? 30% under here, 30% under here, and 40% under here. But I want you to maintain that weight distribution while you're moving through your cars. Because a lot of times when we're going into flexion, we tend to put most of our weight in the front, and as we move to rotation, we tend to put most of the weight to the left side or the right side, and then we don't maintain this proper weight distribution, and the compensations will go all over the place. So while you're moving in these ranges of motion, pay attention to what your weight distribution under your feet is, okay, when you're moving in it. Make sure they're always remaining the same no matter what position you are in, even if that means that you have to decrease the amount of range of motion you have to go through, right? Because you're going to do this for multiple repetitions, so every repetition will be a little bit better than the first one, okay? So create a little bit of tension. You can create tension, by the way, in here by either driving the earth together or spreading it apart, activating inner thigh stuff or outer thigh stuff. Create tension, flex, and then slowly, one by one, let's flex one vertebrae at a time. Don't lead with your neck. Go all the way down. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Pause here. Find your position without allowing your pelvis and your hips to join the party. Rotate to one side. Find your end. Once you find your end, lateral flexion. Pause here. Slowly extend through here, one vertebrae at a time. Excellent. Rotate, laterally flex. Then we're going to pull this elbow towards this hip to create that full flexion. Beautiful rep. Now let's go towards the other side. Pause. See how her pelvis joined the party? Again. Flex down. Don't allow this to come forward. Pause here. Lateral flexion. Extension, slowly, 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 slowly. Lateral flexion. And then pull the other elbow all the way here to get into the starting position. Excellent. So that's going to be our spine car. Standing spine car. Now, let's move to our shoulder cars. Okay? So, for the shoulder, we have shoulder flexion, which is this. We have shoulder extension, go to the side, which is this, go all the way back. This is extension. The other one was flexion. This is, stand to this side. This is shoulder external rotation. This is internal rotation, right? This is adduction. This is abduction, sorry. This is adduction. Now we're going to put all of these together into a controlled articular rotation setting. So first, we start with external rotation. External rotation with a straight arm. So everything is moving from your upper arm bone, right? Imagine that there's an X here, and when I ask you to externally rotate, the X moves this way. When I ask you to internally rotate, the X moves towards the side on your bicep. So let's do a couple of repetitions of just external rotation and then internal rotation, and try to initiate the movement from the upper arm bone right here. Great. One more time. One more time. Great. Now, let's start with external rotation first. Then we're going to adduct. We're going to drive this humerus towards the sternum, all the way in the middle as much as we can, slowly moving it all the way up to flexion. Then we're going to abduct, and then as we abduct, we're going to internally rotate, internally rotate, internally rotate, a little bit more, a little bit more. Keep rotating as you go through the motion until your pinky comes forward. Now, you're going to go back into extension. You're going to create external rotation once you reach a roadblock, and then we're going to go all the way back to the starting position. Adduction, a little bit more external rotation, and there we go. Now, one more time, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like from the side, okay? So first, external rotation, right? Then I want you to drive it towards the middle, all the way, then go all the way up into flexion, then slowly abduct as you internally rotate. Keep rotating, rotate, rotate, rotate. Pause here. See that your pinky's forward, and then push this all the way back. Pause here. Once you reach a roadblock, initiate external rotation. And then slowly come towards the middle. Now, a lot of people will try, now Julie's done it many times, so she's pretty good at it, but a lot of times when we're moving in through these ranges of motion, because we want to make the circle bigger, we tend to, use our spine. We tend to push our rib cage forward, use our spine. When we don't have range here, we tend to flex from our spine, so don't do that. Even if it means that you need to make the circle smaller, keep the circle smaller, but truly move from your shoulder only. Don't try to compensate with any other areas just for the sake of making the circle bigger. Now, let's move to our hips, and then we're gonna do the smaller stuff. So for the hip, I'm going to show you the different positions that our hip goes through, and then we're going to put them all together. So first, hip flexion, drive your knee up. Perfect. Now go into hip extension, push it back. This is hip extension. Now straight out your leg, go to adduction, so inside, that's adduction, and then abduction, drive it outside. Perfect. Now drive it up. We're going to show external rotation, so external. Nice. Then we're going to show internal rotation. Perfect. Now we're going to put them all together and make it into a controlled articular rotation. So let's face you that way. Create tension. So first we're going to start with adduction and external rotation. So externally rotate as you drive it towards the middle. Try to find your end, fight for some more, and then slowly open up. Don't allow this trail hip to follow. Initiate internal rotation as you push this hip back into extension. Now from this position, we're going to abduct again. Abduct, drive it out. Externally rotate. Try to drive it as high as you can, and then drive it in the middle. Great. Now, a lot of people would want to push their trail hip and allow it to follow. Don't do that, right? So keep it still. Imagine that this hip has an eye and is constantly looking forward. Create external rotation, abduct. Now, if you have a limited internal rotation, which a lot of people do, when you try to internally rotate here, a lot of the times people's hip tend to hike up like this, and I don't want that to happen. So if you have limited range of motion here, when you reach here, just drop your knee down a little bit, then initiate internal rotation and then push it back, okay? So you're truly moving from the hip only. Excellent. And then one more rep. Slowly open it up, initiate internal rotation, push it all the way back, and then retrace your steps. Great. Beautiful. Good job. Now, let's go over the scapula, okay? Your scapula is a triangular shaped bone that sits on your rib cage, and it needs to be able to move freely. So I'm gonna put you here, I'm gonna put your head here. So we're working on these guys over here. So I want it to go in every direction. I want it to go up, I want it to go down, I want it to go move forward and backward, okay? So put your hand on the seam of your pants, okay? And keep your elbows as straight as possible when we're moving through these ranges of motion that we want to move to. Okay, so first I want you to elevate all the way up as much as you can. And then I want you to protract, so open them up. And as you open them up, don't allow your hands that's on the seam of your pants to go forward and backward. So keep them where they are. Now, drive them down, depress them, and then close them all the way back together. Okay, so one more time. We're going to do elevation. We're going to do protraction. We're going to do depression. And then we're going to do retraction. And then we're going to do the opposite side as well. So keep it retracted in the bottom position, and then protract in depression. Elevate, retract, and then drive them all the way down. Excellent. So that's our scapula cars, okay? Let's go to our elbows. Elbows. When we're doing elbows, I want you to try your best to keep your shoulder out of it, because we're really trying to isolate this lower arm bone, and our elbow pronates, so rotate it this way. So this is pronation, and then rotate it the other way. That's supination. But a lot of the times when people try to pronate, they tend to internally rotate their shoulder as well. And then when they're trying to supinate, which is the other side, they tend to externally rotate their shoulder as well. So remember that X that we talked about when we did the controlled articular rotations for the shoulder? Now this time, I don't want that X to move. So maybe even draw an X right here when you're doing it at home, and make sure that that X is maintained where it is. Now, before we start, I just want you to try to pronate and supinate a couple of times before we do our cars. So pronate, pause, and then supinate slowly. And see, Julie's bicep is moving a little bit. So try a little bit harder just to really isolate it from the lower arm bone. And then supinate. Excellent. Pronate and supinate. And the slower you do it, the better control you'll have over the tissues around here. There's not a whole lot of stuff around here, so that's why it's harder for you to really access it if you've never actually done it before. Now, once you know what pronation and supination of the elbow feels like, now I want us to go through our controlled articular rotation. So we start at a supinated position or a pronated position, it doesn't matter. Then we flex as if we're doing a bicep curl, go all the way, and then up top, we're gonna pronate. Once we max this out, we're gonna do a tricep extension and go all the way down. Then we're gonna supinate in the bottom, bicep curl it up, and then we're gonna pronate, come all the way down. Great. And that's gonna go for your elbow cars, okay? Now we're gonna do our wrist cars, okay? So our wrist goes into deviation, goes into extension, goes into flexion. Now we're gonna put all of these together. Now, just like when you did the elbow, you'd wanted to keep the shoulder out of it. Now when you're doing the wrist, you want to keep the elbow out of it. So make sure, imagine that there's a drink on your forearm and you don't want to spill it, because if you pronate your elbow, then you're going to spill that drink. So first, just move into that deviation as much as you can. See what that feels like. Don't rush into it, okay? Then from this position, give me a little bit of extension. See how much you have, and then pause. And then move into full extension. Try to find out your end, max out. And then slowly move a little bit to the other side. See how much you have. And then slowly from this side, go straight into full flexion. And when you're doing this, make sure that your fingers are not leading the way and you're truly moving from your wrist. Then we're going to tilt it a little bit, pause, and then go into extension in a tilted position. Exactly. Take your time and then slowly come back up. Really think about creating the movement from that wrist. A lot harder than it looks. Perfect. So that's going to be our wrist motion. Great. Now we're going to go over the knees. Okay? So for the knees, we're going to get on the ground. Now, we're going to choke hold our knee, right? Like this. So this arm goes here. Now, when you want to move the knee, I always want you to create dorsiflexion from the ankle, okay? Now, your knee externally rotates and then internally rotates. Now, if you put an X here, you would see that this lower leg bone, which is your tibia, is moving internally and then externally. So go ahead and move it a couple of repetitions for me. And if this is an uncomfortable position for you to sit in, because you might not have like enough hip mobility or your back is bugging you, then you can go and lie on the floor and do it like this, okay? And then you can do the same thing. You can create dorsiflexion of the ankle and then create that rotation from your knee. Do a couple of rotations and see what that feels like. After that's done, Then, and never allow this to go in a plantar flex position. So always keep it dorsiflexed. Then we're going to create external rotation. Then we're going to extend the knee. Then we're going to internally rotate. And then we're going to flex the knee. We're going to externally rotate, extend the knee. Then we're going to internally rotate, flex the knee. And then we're going to do the opposite side. We're going to keep it internally rotated. We're going to extend. We're going to externally rotate, flex. Internally rotate, extend, externally rotate, flex. Great job. That's going to be the knee. Okay? Let's go over the ankles, and then we're going to go over the toes, and then we're going to do a follow-along routine. So for the ankles, I want you to stand up again. And I'm not going to block it with a yoga block or anything because I want you to really create that neurological control there, where I want you to consciously try to block any type of movement from your ankle. Okay, so maybe hold on to something like this, or hold on to a wall. Now our ankle also, so our ankle plantar flexes like this. It also dorsiflexes, and it also rotates from side to side. Okay, inversion and eversion. Now, I want you to gas pedal your ankle all the way down, create rotation, and then drive it all the way up in a rotated position, and then tilt it towards the other side, and then drive it all the way down. Now, a lot of times people tend to compensate by rotating their hips internally and externally while they're trying to create that rotation in their ankle, but I really want you to pay attention and try your best to keep your hips out of it. Because your knee is in a straight, is extended position, your knee is not going to be able to chime in, but your hips are going to try their best to chime in, especially if this is your first time doing this. So pay attention to it. And don't think that just by one time doing this, you're going to be great at, your ankle controlled articular rotations. No, it's going to take a lot of times for you to really be able to isolate that joint. So don't beat yourself up if you can't do it on the first try. So one more time, plantar flex. We're going to create rotation, pause, and then come all the way up in a rotated position, then tilt, and then drive it all the way down, tilt, drive it all the way up, tilt, and then drive it all the way down. Great. Beautiful. Next one, toes. So for the toes, I want you to just lift up your big toes from the ground without allowing your little guys up to come with it. Then put it on the ground again. Lift your big toes up. See if you have control. If you don't, that's okay. Just try. Now, put your big toes down, lift your little toes up. Put your little toes down, lift them up again. Perfect. Now, if you couldn't do any of those, then I want you to lift all of them up and only put your big toes on the ground. Lift all of them up, put them all on the ground. Excellent. Now lift them up. If you have great control, then you can slowly play the piano with it. So slowly, little guys first, and then the big toe again. Little guys first, and then the big toe. Great. Now we're going to do the follow-along routine, okay? Controlled articular rotations. So, create tension right in the middle. Slowly, let's start from the neck. Drop your chin down all the way. Once you find your end, 1 mile per hour, moving through honey, moving through molasses. Find your end, tilt your neck back, rotate towards the upper side. We're going to do 2 reps per side, and then drop it forward. Excellent. Now rotate, drop your neck back, 1 mile per hour, rotate, rotate, rotate. Drop it forward, all the way down. Now rotate, drop it all the way back, tilt, and down. Great job. Rotate again. Drop your neck back. Slowly, 1 mile per hour, always in the pain-free zone, okay? Never push through pain. Great. Now let's do our spine car. Widen your feet. Now, if you have yoga blocks at home, I would recommend holding yoga blocks like this. So hold these guys, hug them like this, because it's gonna allow you to create more tension, okay? So you can squeeze the yoga blocks into yourself. Widen your stance a little bit more, create a whole lot of tension. Move to the side so they see what's happening in your spine, so face that way. Great, thank you. Now create tension, and then go all the way down. Flex, 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 one vertebrae at a time. Really connect with your spine here. Now give me rotation. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Laterally flex. Extend. Slowly extend, 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 extend. Pause. Give me a little bit more extension. Hold. Rotate. Laterally flex. Don't allow this to join the party. And then pull this towards this guy to get in the middle position. Flex a little bit more. Max out your flexion. Now rotate towards me. Slowly. Lateral flexion. Slowly give me extension, 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 extension. Rotate, laterally flex. Really squeeze the yoga blocks. Now pull this elbow towards this other guy. Squeeze. One more per side. Rotate, slowly. Root your bottom half into the floor. Laterally flex. Extend, slowly. Extend, extend, extend. Rotate 1 mile per hour. Laterally flex. Pull this all the way back. Beautiful. One more rep towards my side. 1 mile per hour, Julie. Laterally flexed. Extend, 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 extend. Rotate, lateral flexion, and then give me full flexion all the way down here. Excellent. Now let's do our scapula. There's plenty of ways that you can do your scapula. I showed you one way, so we're gonna just do it like that. Hands here on the seam of your pants, all the way up. Protract, depress, and retract. Elevate, protract, depress, and retract, and then let's do the opposite. Protract in the depressed position, elevate, retract, depress. Protract, elevate, retract, and depress. Great job. Now let's go over our shoulders, okay? So we can do 2 shoulders at the same time, or you can do 1 shoulder at a time. Today we're gonna do both shoulders at the same time. Create a whole lot of tension. First, you're gonna do external rotation. Then you're gonna drive that upper arm bone towards your chest bone together. Exactly, you're gonna get a chest bump. And then all the way up, as close as possible to your ear in the pain-free zone. Then abduct and internally rotate at the same time. Get more rotation, more rotation, more rotation. Rotation is super important here. Once you reach here, push them back together. Once you reach a roadblock, rotate again. Rotate, rotate. Get it as close as possible to your ear again. Drive that upper arm bone towards your chest bone. And then let's do 1 more rep. Slowly, all the way up. Get it as close as possible to your ear. Open, abduct, internally rotate as you move into extension. Get more rotation here. Boom. And then go all the way back. External rotation, all the way up. Drive it in the middle. And there we have it. Let's go straight to the elbows. Create tension. You can get them a little bit closer to your body. Although you can do them from here too. You can do them from anywhere really. Flex your biceps all the way. Pronate. Go all the way down. Supinate in the bottom. Keep your shoulders out of it. Flex the bicep. Pronate. Go all the way down. Hold it here. Come up. Supinate up top now. Drive it down. Pronate in the bottom. All the way up. Supinate up top. All the way down. And let's go straight to our wrist cars. Okay? Keep everything out of it. Imagine there's a glass here of your favorite drink. You don't want to spill it. And let's get straight to it. Okay? So deviate. extend in a deviated position, slowly tilt, and then bring it all the way up. Very good. Tilt, all the way down, tilt, all the way up. And let's go 1, 2 reps from the opposite side. So move this side for me. Go into flexion. Excellent. And then go drive it all the way down, tilt towards the other side, flexion, and then all the way down. Okay, great. Straight to the hips. Let's do 3 reps for the hips. Create tension. Drive it all the way up and in. So external rotation and adduction. You're trying to drive that femur towards your midline while you're externally rotating. Then drive that femur outside. Once you reach your end, then initiate internal rotation as you push this hip back into extension. Excellent. Then extension, abduction. So drive it away, and then flexion, external rotation, and adduction. 2 more reps. Each rep, try to create a little bit of a bigger circle if you can, if you have access to it. If not, it's okay. Maintain speed, maintain cadence. Imagine that you're moving through honey and you're going 1 mile per hour. And you're only trying to isolate that hip and move from this joint. Create tension, internally rotate, drive it towards the midline, and then get back at it. Abduct, externally rotate, a little bit more external rotation, there it is. And now let's do our other hip. Great. So give me external rotation, crank out a little bit more external rotation if you can. Abduct for me. Slowly. Internally rotate. Extend. Push, and then push it back. Abduct. Externally rotate. Create more external rotation. Nice. Again, abduct. Slowly. Internal rotation. Push it back. Don't push it too far back because I don't want you to extend with your spine. This is hip extension, not spine extension. So go as far as you can without allowing your spine to chime in. All right? 1 more rep. Open up. Internal rotation here. Now push this hand back. Great. And now retrace your steps. Abduct. And all the way down. Great. Now we can do our knees on the ground. So you can, like I said, you can either go lay on the floor, maybe go lay on the floor on this time for people who can't actually access their knee like that. So you can put one hand here. Don't block your knee. Just put it as a reference point, so make sure that your hip is not internally and externally rotating. And then flex this guy, and then externally rotate, extend the knee, pause here. Don't fully extend the knee, just shy away from full extension. Internally rotate, flex, externally rotate, extend, internally rotate, flex. Now keep it in that position, go all the way up. Pause here, externally rotate, go down, internally rotate, go up, externally rotate, go down, and let's move to the opposite knee. Create tension, dorsiflex, external rotation of the knee, extend, pause here, internal rotation, go down, external rotation, all the way up, internal rotation, down, pause here, now keep it here, and then go all the way up. Externally rotate up top, all the way down, internally rotate in the bottom, all the way up, externally rotate up top, down, and internally rotate, and we're good. Now, let's do our ankles. So, for the ankle, you can still be in the seated position. I want you to fully extend this guy, and now, just like the standing position, we're going to go through the ranges of motion. So gas pedal down, tilt, bring it up in a tilted position, drive it towards the other side without involving your hips, and then slowly try to move only from the ankle. Slowly, 1 mile per hour, and now retrace your steps. All the way up, tilt, all the way down, tilt, all the way up, and excellent. Opposite side. Tilt. There you go. One ankle is definitely going to be harder than the other one. It's going to have much less neurological control there. And then all the way up, tilt, all the way down, and then retrace your steps. Let's do opposite circles. Tilt, all the way down, tilt, all the way up, tilt, all the way down. Great. Now let's stand and do our toes. Lift your big toe up, slowly put it down. Lift your big toe up, slowly put it down. Lift your big toe up, slowly put it down, and lift your little toes up. Put them down. Little toes up, put them down. Little toes up, put them down. Now lift all of them up. Big toe down, up all the way, big toe down, up all the way. Now slowly put the little toe down, the smallest guy, perfect, and then put the big toe down. Again, all of them up. Now play the piano again, slowly. And then do it slower on the last time. Slow. There it is. One toe at a time. Great. There you have it. Our full controlled articular rotations. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed filming it for you guys. Until next time, cheers.